we have the City of Annetta's Mayor, Mr. Bruce Pinker. Please come up and tell us all about your city.
I have one of those things in my hand that Mayor Marshall was talking about. It allows me to see that. So we can go to slide 2. Town of Annetta is an interesting little community. It's about 10 years behind where the city of Aledo is as far as growth. We are seeing the exact same things happen in our community that happened in Aledo and in Hudson Oaks and in Willow Park just a few years ago. Our mission is to see what has happened and transpired in those communities, try to learn from them, maybe improve upon them, utilizing resources like this community here, technology, professional planners, to help us try to mitigate some of the pressures that happen so that we can do a better job of managing the growth. Slide 3, please. Quick facts about Annetta. We're about 5.5 square miles, 2,830 residents, 933 homes, $258 million in property values. In the ETJ, the next slide, another 111 homes and $22 million worth of property taxes. Your average home price in the Annettas is pretty high. The demographics are off the charts as far as the quality of people there. They're highly educated, they're highly motivated, and they're high income earners. And this what? They're your customers to a large degree. We don't have a lot of business in Aledo, in Annetta, sorry, like Aledo or Hudson Oaks or Willow Park. What we do have is a lot of people that spend their money. And if we can keep that money from running off to Fort Worth or somewhere else and keep it here, we're all going to benefit from that. Next slide. This is our map. The northern boundary is the Union Pacific Railroad. This little road that cuts along the southern portion is FM5. That is a beautiful corridor. It's gorgeous. There's a lot of scenery as well as along Old Annetta Road, which cuts through the heart. The green areas are our ETJs, and we've identified some areas close to the railroad tracks for future commercial type development when those needs come along. Next slide, please. We're very, very happy that in 2015 we were awarded to be registered as a monarch way station. The monarch butterflies are a critical part of our environment. We have a lot of open space working with the master gardeners. It's been a tremendous partnership. They have done the labor and the heavy lifting and beautified our city hall and created some habitat for those monarch butterflies. And last year they were just swarming around Annetta City Hall, and it was really, really neat. People were coming up there and taking pictures and bringing their kids and their pets, and that's kind of the community we are, where you can still feel comfortable just popping by City Hall, stopping by, talking to our wonderful staff, or getting your picture made. Next slide, please. This is my staff. I'm very proud of them. I have some of them here tonight. Dennis Thompson is here. He's our planning and operations director. And then we have Jamie is my city secretary. She's here as well. We have Fred, who's not here today, and Diana, who is our utility billing clerk. She is the voice on the phone most of the time when you call our city hall. Next slide, please. That's what we were talking about a little while ago. We have some of the most beautiful properties in the Annettas. It is gorgeous. You drive through there, you ride your bike through there, people get out and run and jog. We have a lot of physical activity in the Annettas because there's room to do it. We really cherish that, we appreciate that, and we work very closely with our property owners to try to maintain that as much as possible. Next slide. We also support community. You have on the right, we have the Boy Scouts doing a flag retirement ceremony. They came to our city hall and retired some flags that had been tattered due to wind damage. And then on the left, we have a luncheon picture where we had the City of Hudson Oaks staff who operates our water and sewer utility systems for us. We fed them lunch, as well as the Precinct 4 workers, Steve Dugan's crew, who come in and maintain our roads. We like to have that back and forth with community. We think it's very, very important, not just on the business side, but on the personal side. We get to know each other a little bit better, and we can then work on each other's needs. Next slide. The beautiful split rail golf course. And if you hadn't been there since they built their new clubhouse, it's gorgeous. They have a large meeting and dining room. They can host big events. They also have smaller rooms where you can have luncheon meetings or just business meetings. And they have a full bar now and lunch counter. So it's open to the public. You can also host some events there, but we have a great relationship with Split Rail. We're very pleased to call them part of our family in Annetta. Next slide. They got a lot of notoriety lately, although the city with the post office got the recognition on the news. Split Rail is in the town of Annetta, and they did host the USGA Open, where Tony Romo came and played this week. And there was cars from one end of the road to the other, and I mean, that's a long road, Old Annetta. But it was pretty exciting to have that type of notoriety and have something of that high quality, an event in your own city. Next slide. So we move to the business side. What are our revenue streams and how do we conduct business in the way we do it? Sales taxes and franchise fees. The city of Annetta does not have an ad valorem tax. There's no city property taxes in Annetta. Next slide, please. Annetta strongly believes that you just don't tax the wealth of your citizens. It just doesn't make sense. We all hate it when we have to pay that property tax bill. We see the benefits because we live in a wonderful, wonderful community. But when you have to write that check, we all wonder, could we do it a little bit more efficiently? After all, we thought we'd already paid for that stuff once. So what do? We think sales tax is the way to do it. Tax activity. You get so much better revenue when you're taxing sales activity. We have home-based businesses, franchise fees from Encore and companies that do business in our community. And we offset that by keeping our expenses low. If you don't ask for a lot, you don't need a lot. So we can operate off a pretty solid budget that way. Next slide, please. Same tax rates as the other cities in East Parker County. The state gets the bulk, the county gets a penny off your dollar. We end up with a penny and a half. Next slide, please. So what do we do with it? Well, it's interesting. Since we had the annexation of over 400 homes, voluntarily, I might add, back in 2013, you can watch how our sales tax has gone up. Blue being 2013, it jumped in 2014, and then it skyrocketed, more than doubling, even exceeding our anticipated volume. So that was pretty exciting. We had a huge jump. Our expenses really didn't go up. We had more roads to deal with, but overall, our expenses didn't go up. And the citizens didn't feel it because those were tax dollars from people doing business, paying those taxes. They would have paid them anywhere. Next slide, please. Same story. Blue 2013 franchise fees went from $60,000 to $120,000 a year and up. Free income, right? The money's coming in. You're paying those franchise fees through your utility bills no matter where you live. We captured that by bringing in those 400 homes voluntarily, and we've put that money into, next slide, your roads. It's the biggest thing. Every city knows the calls on the potholes, the calls on the roads. When are you going to fix my road? Not his road, my road, right? It's always the most important thing. Well, if you look, it's more than doubled. It's more than tripled. And actually, this slide is a little old because we've been able to reach out just recently and add to our road project for this year by working with Precinct 4 and Steve Dugan. He's been able to structure and schedule some more road projects. So we're going to get a whole lot of road work done within these next several months once school lets out that was frankly somewhat remiss when we didn't have the income. So the citizens benefit from having better maintained roads, and that's critical. That's really what the citizens in Annetta like. Next slide. Who all's involved in running your city? City council members are obvious. What about your P&Z members? How about average citizens? Did you know that you can actually go into a city council meeting? You don't even have to have an invitation. Matter of fact, you're always invited to attend, and you should come, not just if you have an issue, but to see what's going on. The truth is, people often hear things through social media or rumor or across the fence about what they thought was going on, and they don't really know what is going on. And you have a seat waiting. I'll bet you most cities in this room will tell you there's empty seats at every city council meeting, unless, of course, there's something that people are angry about. I like to avoid the anger by having the communication on the front end. Next slide. Our biggest challenge is growth, just like everybody else in East Parker County. We're excited about what's going to happen. We see there's things going to happen, but we realize now we've got to make some solid decisions so that we don't make mistakes we'll be paying for the next decade or two. Some of those are utility infrastructures. Next slide. Because when you're going to go from something like this, next slide, what you want to avoid is having something that looks like that. And believe me, if you don't plan, it'll happen. You know what they call a plan, or you know what they call something good that happens that was a result of not planning? It's called a miracle. If you don't plan for it, you're going to get something you didn't want. So you need to plan for it. Next slide, please. Since 2006, in the Annettas, Annetta South and Annetta primarily, over 857 acres have been platted. That's amazing. That is a lot of growth in just about a decade. Some of those lots have not been built on, several of them have, but more are coming, and they will be built on. That puts a huge pressure on our school district, on our roads, on our utility infrastructure. Having rapid growth and not planning ahead, not being prepared for it, puts a lot of pressure on the tax base later on. And like I said, we don't have a tax base. We recognize now if we don't handle things right, we will have to have one, and it'll be higher than what we would have normally liked. Next slide, please. So some other community concerns we have, when you have that many people and they're on wells, you have a dwindling water supply. You have too many wells too close to each other, and everybody's competing at the same time because we all get up about the same time and get the kids to school and go to work. Those wells can't keep up, and you've got low pressure problems. That's not sustainable. That's not something we can deal with. How do we diversify access to water supply? That's a big concern. We're going to have to get surface water. I know that the city of Willow Park, the city of Hudson Oaks are already working on that. City of Aledo's already done it. It's a no-brainer. It's got to happen, and it takes a long time to make that happen. You can't wait till you need it to start thinking about it. You got to be thinking about it right now. Our road capacity, traffic on FM5 has seen dramatic increases, 73% in less than 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, whatever it's been. It's just crazy. Same 2-lane blacktop road. What do you do about it? Well, you wait. What you see in Hudson Oaks and Willow Park and in Aledo when there's road construction, you don't want to wait, right? You've got to be prepared and set funds aside and make contracts and negotiations ahead of time to get those road projects done and widened, or we all suffer. And no one wants to live in a community where your home address is now at the corner of such and such and so and so. Land use in the ETJ, big problem. Can't regulate it. Cities don't have much control over it. However, that's where all the growth happens. We have, next slide please. Next slide, talked about water. The school district. We had the new elementary school, lots of talk about where it should have been built. It ended up being built on the north side near the Morningstar Development, Walsh Ranch. That's a no-brainer. If you hadn't been out there, look at the houses flying up. They're flying up left and right. That did not eliminate the need for a school in the southern part. Most of us moved out to the Annettas and the East Parker County because of the schools. We wanted a better place to raise our family, and the schools are a big part of that. Next slide, please. What are we doing about it? Carry on, next slide. We are doing our planning. We've already developed our comprehensive plan. It's available for you to look at. You can go to our website and find it. That's a long-term horizon. We have also been working on our strategic plans, which are much shorter in term. They allow us to look at things 3 to 5 years out, and then implementation plans, because if you don't have a plan in place and work the plan, you just don't get what you need out of it. The truth is, you usually get what someone else wanted for you. Next plan. Our planning area encompasses parts of Annetta North and Annetta South, and it has to for a reason. No city is truly an island. Next slide. Having a smart plan begins with determining the facts, accepting them for what they are, dealing with them in a way that provides for greater economic stability and enhanced property values. I can't have an ego in that and think only in that way or only this way or we don't want to do that. I've got to work with my neighboring cities because they have things that they can offer as a benefit. We have things we can offer as a benefit. When we don't talk and communicate, or as Jim Eggleston told me the other day, collaborate, roads don't line up, things don't happen, utilities get missed, expenses go up, and we all pay the price later. Next slide. Next slide. Talked about those. Municipal plans need to present a vision. What do you want? What do you really want in your community? Next slide. We like to see the open spaces, the large lots, and the bigger homes. Next slide. We manage future development through planning, zoning, and good ordinances. You have to define standards for all that, and you have to consolidate your resources. Next slide. Annexation is a word that strikes fear into people, but contrary to those fears, it is for the protection of property values driven through citizen standards Citizen standards, that's not my standards. It's what the citizens want. That's important. That goes back to you have an open seat at those council meetings where you can voice your opinion. Next slide. So what can you do? Get involved. Come on down and see us. Call us if you have a question. Maybe there's something that doesn't fit in another city and you're looking for something a little unique. We had some calls just recently on things that wouldn't have worked in any of the other cities, but you know what? They may fit in the Annettas. Give us a call and ask. Work with us. We're not the enemy. We want to work with you. We want to figure out what's the best fit for your business or your activities or your home. You're welcome there, and we have a very friendly staff that's ready to do that. Bring those issues that you have before your local governments, whether it's our city or another city that you live in. I know that a lot of these cities here do a great job of communicating with developers, with business owners, with citizens. We want to do the same thing. We're just a little further behind. The growth hadn't hit us yet, but it's coming. And then consider running for office. I know what motivates a lot of people is anger, fear, and frustration. But the truth is, if you pay attention, you get involved, a lot of those fears are mitigated, and you might have the answer that no one else had. So rather than sit back and complain and fuss, come get involved. I want to hear what you have to say, and I know a lot of the other mayors in this room do too, because we don't think we have all the answers. We just want to find the best solutions. That's what I have for you today. Thank you.